Welcome to the Spurs 9501 podcast. From Kane to the Lane, the final say on all things Tottenham.
Everybody, welcome back to the Spurs 9501 podcast. This is Ray in London. I've got a special guest, Danny Pinto from the Seleção pod, who's also a Tottenham fan. Welcome, Danny.
Ray, nice to be on the show. Appreciate it.
Great stuff. So, Danny, just give us a bit of intro about yourself, what you do, and how you became to be a long-suffering Tottenham fan like all of us.
You know, it all started back with the invention of satellite television here in the States. We had just picked up satellite TV, I would say, in the early 2000s at the household, and the Premier League was, I believe, at that time on ESPN, and the one thing that drew me to Spurs was now it's not going to be a great connection here, but it was one Elder Postiga, the most famous of all strikers. When I hear Harry Kane, I'm like, yeah, but what about Elder Postiga? You know?
Yeah.
But it was that and a kind of like a partnership that the club had with an MLS club here in the States with the San Jose Earthquakes. I'm out in California, about 2 hours away from San Jose. The partnership there also with Billy Beane, the general manager of the Oakland A's, kind of started getting a little more traction, even though I think Billy's an Arsenal fan. So I let's hope we don't hold him too much accountable for that. But it was very easy getting into soccer, into football out here to go Man City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool. But something about Tottenham it drew me, and I've been Tottenham strong pretty much for the last 10, 15 years.
Oh, good man, Danny. Good man. I mean, once you choose a club, you can't chase it. You can't change it. You're not a plastic fan. So for better or for worse, once you choose a club, that's it. So that's great to hear.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Just tell us a little bit, our fans and our viewers, about the podcast that you do, the Portuguese podcast. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, appreciate that. So about 3 years ago, May of 2018, I began the Seleção podcast. And what the podcast is about is pretty much it covers the Portuguese national team. So, I've been doing it for about 3 years. I've had a lot of pundits and come on board and talk about Portuguese soccer in the English platform because my folks immigrated to the States in the mid '70s. I'm first generation born here, so the one thing that I always was instilled with, I should say, was the love of football, the love of soccer. And once I began feeling the passion that I had for the game and for the national team specifically, the one thing I wanted growing up was an English-speaking outlet because as fluent as I am in Portuguese, the understanding of the idiom is sometimes lacks in terms of context. And, I started reading a gentleman by the name of Tom Kundert, based in Lisbon, but born in England, and we've now established a great partnership with his Portugal.net website, and like I said, right, for the last 3 years, it's been just Portugal and the national team. That's my passion. It's my number one. Sure, I know this is a Spurs podcast, but obviously Spurs are my number one team in the EPL, but when it comes down to football, Portugal is number one. My Seleção is my number one, and I just wanted to find a way to express that in a medium that I absolutely love. I have a background in radio, I have a background in broadcasting, and it kind of just fell into some symbiosis here a few years back, and we've had great success, in the States, in Canada, in the UK, Australia, and I'll never fully understand how someone can be listening to me go on and on about the Portuguese national team from all the way across the world. It's one of the great things about this, about podcasting and about doing the video stuff. And it's something I really look forward to. And it's not as, it's as niche as football podcasts can be. National team football podcasts are about as niche as it gets. So I've had a little bit of a break in the since the Euros, but we're looking forward to national team soccer and football once again at the end of this month and the beginning of September.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that. It's a really good introduction to the podcast. And as I said, we'll put the link to the podcast and your YouTube channel in our description, so anybody wants to check it out, please do check it out. One of the things I wanted to ask you, let's talk about Tottenham now. What do you think about the new signings? So QT Romero, Brian Hill, and Pierluigi Golini. What's your views on the signings that we've made?
Well, let's go with the most recent in terms of Romero. I mean, Ray, it was almost one of the breaking points of Lionel Messi's stay at Barcelona. So I guess on the surface you can look at that and be like, all right, if Messi wanted this guy, he's got to be something special. And to be the center back and defender of the year in the Serie A is no small task, as defensive of a league as that league can be. He had a great showing in the Copa America for Argentina. And I think it's a great move for him personally at the right time. He's definitely capitalizing on the success that he's had at Serie A and on the national team level for Argentina. But especially playing in Nuno's 3-back system, I think if you put him right in the middle of that, he can flourish as the center back that quite frankly we've needed in the last couple of years at Tottenham. So I think it's a tremendous signing for him. And for the club, Brian Heel, I saw him a little bit during the Olympics. Was my first real exposure to him as a player. He quite nearly won the gold medal for Spain with that rocket that hit the post against Brazil. But he is all kinds of exciting, and I think I think expectations need to be a little tempered a little bit, given that he's coming, he's so young, but he's so explosive. But I think, not having much of an off season because he went right from La Liga to the Olympics. I think that, expectations for him, especially early on, could be a little tempered and should be anyway. But in terms of potential, I think he could be a wing player, especially in this in the 3-4-3 and a 3-5-2 that Nuno likes to play, that could absolutely flourish in London. And in terms of the goalkeeping, the goalkeeper with, I don't even want to call him by his name. I just want to call him the rapper because let's go with that. But it'll be interesting to see how much time he actually gets, given that Hugo Lloris is still still at the top of his game.
One of the questions I had for you, Danny, is he just going to be a guy to play in the second-tier games like the cup competitions, etc., or is he going to be a real challenger to Lloris for that number one spot? Is he going to put some pressure on Lloris now?
I think he definitely needs to play the cup matches just to stay sharp. Absolutely. Yep. And I think based off of those, you can see, and based off of Hugo's performance in the Premier League, I think that it could very well open up to be a competition. But I think that's going to be both based on both the players there. I still think Hugo Lloris has a lot of football left in him, and I think he still has a lot of football left in him at Spurs if he wants to be there. Yeah. But we shall see. But Giulini is I think a lot. I think it's good business. It's on a loan, very low fee if he meets appearances. I think it's like 15 million.
Yeah, it's a great business. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good business, absolutely.
Yep. And in terms of our potential signings, we're talking about Lautaro Martinez, Pau Torres is now being spoken about, Vlahovic, all these guys. I'll come to Harry Kane later, just quickly. But what do you think about these potential signings we're looking at, and do you think there's any other players we should be looking at?
Well, you mentioned Harry Kane later, but I think it all has to do with Harry Kane.
Yeah, so let's discuss it now.
For these signings to happen, I think from everything that I've read with Martinez at Inter, an agreement in terms of a fee was agreed to. I don't think personals were agreed to yet, but a fee was agreed to. Then Lukaku, signs and heads over to Chelsea. So Inter may not be as hard up financially as they were prior to the Lukaku signing. I still think, from everything I've read, that in terms of finances, Inter still hurting a little bit. So
Yep.
an injection of 60 million, and I don't know if those pounds or euros, but I mean, but whatever the amount is, I think an injection of that magnitude for that club, given the state of the finances in Italian football, I think might be something that they'll still have to consider. But I think that would be my number one target in terms of, and whether Harry Kane goes or not.
But what do you think is going to happen with Harry Kane? Because the latest we've heard, Danny, is that City are going to come back after the match on Sunday with a 120 million plus add-ons, which will bring it up to about 150, 160, and they expect Kane to go. So what's your view? Do you think he should go, or should he stay, or what should we do?
Well, Ray, I'll answer your question with a question. Do you think Harry Kane should play this weekend?
I personally, if I was Harry Kane, I wouldn't want to play, because if I get injured, then my move is off. So, and I don't think he's match fit. I mean, how much time has he had for training? And really, for him to play against a team he could potentially join, I think there's too many issues in there. I wouldn't play him at all. I don't think his head is in the right space either.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. And in terms of match fitness, it'll say a lot to me about Harry Kane in terms of where his head's at. Going back to the Champions League final, he probably shouldn't have set foot on the pitch. But the want to, and you applaud the want and the wanting to be part of that, but he shouldn't have been there. He's not injured at the moment. He does have a career changing opportunity probably ahead of him here. I think the money's been ridiculous in terms of not pulling the trigger. So I say I think if you mentioned Lukaku, I think he has to sell more for Lukaku in Daniel Levy's mind.
But the thing is, if Lukaku's nearly 100 million, Kane's got to be 120, 130 million, surely.
I think outside of Lukaku and outside of who am I missing here in terms of strikers? I'm blanking.
Lewandowski.
Thank you. I'm all Bayern Munich. I couldn't remember his name. I mean,
he's 34 now, yeah. So
but is there
Erling Haaland as well? There's Erling Brett Haaland, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, but is there a better striker in the world?
I don't think there's a better striker than Harry Kane. No,
I don't think so either. So I think he has to go for top dollar.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, top money there. So it'll be interesting to see. My expectation is that by the end of this month, we'll see Harry Kane in Man City colors. And I personally don't think he's playing this weekend. And we probably have seen him for the last time in a Spurs shirt.
Yep, I agree with you. Which players do you think we need to move on? Now, there's a lot of talk about so-called deadwood that needs to be moved on. I could tell you who I think, but I want to hear it from you. Who do you think are the players we need to get out of this club?
I think I love Tanguy, but it's now come to a point where is he going to make it? Is he a Premier League midfielder? And when he's on, he's not only a Premier League midfielder, but I think he's one of the best, midfielders at his position in his role in the world. To me, it says a lot that he wasn't part of the French team at the Euros, and I know he just had a child, probably his first child, I believe is what I read. But I think he's a guy that if business needs to be done, he could be someone that, and I don't think we're going to recoup the money that we had spent on him a few years back, but I think you could definitely sell him for maybe 30, 40 and use that money to fill some other holes. And another player for me, I have nothing against Harry Winks, but I think he's part of the extra, that he's a cup player for us now. I don't think he's a day in and day out midfielder, given who's ahead of him. And I just think that if Spurs could somehow turn him into a good sale, I think it would benefit both him and the club as well. So those two right off the bat. And
what about the SAD group? We've got a group here called the SAD group. What do you think of them? Sissoko, Aurier, and Dyer.
I have this conversation with my godson about Sissoko. He looks like when the ball is at his feet, he looks like he's on roller skates.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've never understood the appeal. He's an
athlete. He's a real athlete. The box to box. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always thought I never thought he was a great midfielder. I always thought that the experiment with him should always have been at right back. I think he could have been a great right back if given the opportunity to develop there. But Sissoko, Aurier, I think
he wants to go, doesn't he?
He wants to go, but this is the perfect system for him.
Yeah.
To flourish.
Well, it depends. We'll come on to that, but I don't know what system he's going to play. He's played 4-4-2 in the friendlies. Is he really going to go to 3-5-2? We can talk about that. But in terms of, what about Eric Dyer? He's really got I know he's Portuguese, sort of half. You love him because he speaks Portuguese, but do you think he should stay? Because he's always got a mistake in him, hasn't he? And Sanchez as well.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose one to stay, I would keep Sanchez simply because I think Eric Dyer flourished in that defensive midfielder role a few years back, and I know that Højbjerg is now there, and I think
Skip as well.
Yeah, and Skip, and I'm very excited about Oliver Skip. But his potential in our midfield. But if I had to choose one to keep, I would keep Sanchez. But if again, it's all about business with Daniel Levy, and if you can get the business done for one or both of those players and get a good return, I think you should definitely at the very least entertain that possibility.
Okay, cool, excellent. That's really good, Danny. Now, I nearly call you Pedro Pinto there because you know the guy who does the UEFA stuff is Pedro Pinto, so I nearly call you Pedro, so my apologies.
Yeah, you know that guy probably a very distant cousin on the family tree there, so yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So now I'm going to ask you, what is your starting 11 for the team on Sunday against Manchester City? Give us your starting 11.
All right, I would go with Lloris in the back. I would go with a. I know that he's played a 4-4-2 in the preseason, but I just think this team is much better and much better suited if they go with a 3-4-3 or even a 3-5-2. I'll give you a 3-5-2 the formation here. So I'll go with the Davies, Romero if healthy, because I know he's got a knock from Copa America, but if not him. Let's say Romero's not available. I go Davies.
Let's say Romero's available because he said he's legal. So we got Davies left back. You're playing a middle three of centre backs. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll go Davies, Romero, and Rodon in the back. I'll go with Reggie on the left wing back. Doherty on the right. I'll go Højbjerg and Oliver Skip and Lo Celso in the middle, and then I would put Sonny and Lucas up top. I think Lucas Moura has been rejuvenated in working with Nuno, and I think Nuno's way of football can definitely benefit a player like Lucas Moura for sure.
Yep. And what's your score prediction for Sunday?
Oh, I mean, City's a shambles because they don't have the best striker in the world. So I'm gonna say 5-1 Spurs. No, you know what? They've yet to beat us in the new stadium. So I think the one thing about a Nuno Espirito Santo team is that first season with the club is usually their most successful in terms of finishing, in terms of the standings. But I think that he's got this team believing where the rest of the majority don't, and that's a strong and dangerous feeling to have, considering you have the champions of last season coming to your stadium. So I do think Spurs will start the season with the victory. I do think it'll be a 2-1 victory.
Oh, wow, excellent!
I think Sonny and let's go with let's go with a Rodon header off of a corner for that second one. Let's get crazy to start this season.
Yeah, that's why not. If you don't have dreams, how are they going to come true? So yeah,
absolutely right.
So it's a 2-1 to Tottenham. Excellent. Now the final question for you, Danny, is overall in a season prediction for Tottenham. What are we going to do? Where are we going to finish for the season? As I mentioned with Nuno's first season, really with the club, I think the team will be fit. I think the team will fight. I think the team will not stop for 90 minutes. How that all translates when you are in 4 competitions, you have to look at your depth. I still think there are signings to be made solely for depth's sake. But
if they buy in, and if they can stay relatively healthy, which has been an issue for Spurs in the last few seasons, I would say, best case scenario, I think they're a top 4 team. They could be. The realistic side of me says that we're going to be fighting for that last Champions League spot, Europa League spot, the European Conference, whatever that turns out to be.
Conference League, yeah.
But I would say we're going to be right in that top six fight, probably on the bottom side of the top 6.
Okay.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6. I think is where we're gonna. I think should be the expectations anyway.
And are we playing a Portuguese team next week in the first round? Can you tell us a bit about that team or not?
I'll do my best. I mean, Passos Ferreira is they're not Benfica, Sporting, or Porto. They're not Braga, but I would call them second to third tier in Portugal. Usually finishing in the top half of of each league or of each season. So they, I don't see them giving Spurs issues, but they're not bottom feeders in the league either. So the number one thing is to respect the opponent always, no matter where they're from, but also be able to impose your will on them when the opportunity arises. So I definitely think Spurs will get through there, but respect needs to be given to any and all opponents. So.
Okay, excellent. And before we finish, Danny, what we do is we ask all our fans to give a "Come on, you Spurs" in the native language. So, can you give us a "Come on, you Spurs" in Portuguese?
Vamos, Spurs!
Excellent, mate. Excellent. Listen, Danny, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully, we'll get you on the channel again during the season. It'd be great to get your thoughts and everything like that. And everybody, please, if you like the content, please give us a like. Please subscribe. Go and check over Danny's content as well. Subscribe to his channel. And we'll see you on the next podcast. This is Ray from London. And Danny, thank you very much. Goodbye and take care. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to the Spurs 9501 podcast. Stay in touch, continue the debate, and let us know what you want to discuss by finding us on YouTube. Tune in after the next match day for more insight. Thanks for listening.